What's going on, guys? I got something for you for classification. If you're trying to up your classification in USPSA or in anything that IDPA or anything that has classifications, anything like that, when it comes to pistol, it's always about the fundamentals. We always try to go as fast as we can. We think speed's going to do it. Of course, you have to be fast, but you have to get your points and you have to execute the fundamentals flawlessly. So it doesn't always work that way. And as soon as you fumble a mag or something like that, obviously if you're going for GM or whatever you're going for, you're going to drop very quickly to your goal. So if you're just trying to level up, this is the best way I found for me to do it, and that is simply just working on fundamentals. So tip number one, I don't practice classifiers. So I just don't do it. Once I stopped practicing the actual classifiers, I got rid of the expectation of what I think I should do on it. So I suggest don't pay attention to the time you think you need with the hits or anything like that. First of all, it's always alphas. Steals 1-for-1, alphas on everything. That should be your goal. So it doesn't matter how fast, you shouldn't be thinking about how fast you can do it in, because then you're setting yourself up for an expectation. And as soon as something slightly goes wrong, usually what do we all do? Our brain goes, it just screams at us, right? Like, you idiot, I say F-bombs, all that. Sometimes I verbalize them, don't mean to, but anyways, right? You go crazy. So then it just becomes exponential and you start making more mistakes. And then by then you might even zero a classifier, right? So how do we get rid of that? So what I found, I stopped practicing classifiers. That's number one. Number two, fundamentals. Whether it's dry fire or live fire, I'm always trying to refine I keep saying fundamentals. I'm retarded too. So I keep instilling the fundamentals that we need for all aspects of shooting. That's number two. Always practice your fundamentals, whether it's the draw, all sorts of types, whether it's your reload, whether it's your trigger discipline, your acceptable sight picture, depending on the target, correct? Yes. Okay. And then, of course, all alphas and 1-for-1 on steel. Third thing is I practice almost every practice, I try to pretend it's Virginia count. I don't care if I have extra shots. Of course, if you have steel up, it's never going to be Virginia count. But we want to treat it like it's Virginia count anyways. And if you do this in practice, if you limit how many bullets you put in your mag in accordance to what you have out there, of course, I try not to go to slide lock because you don't have to, but I practice slide lock reloads too. But besides that, I'll have the extra one in so I don't go to slide lock on the reload. But I'm still pretending it's Virginia count. Okay, so I don't get that extra shot. Even on steel, whatever, you're pretty much, in your practice, you're screwed. You don't want to practice stopping if you screw up. You want to continue through, so you don't create a bad habit, of course, but pretend it's Virginia count. So and what that's going to do is it's going to really help you hyper focus on what you need to get done. You're going to focus on your hits, on the shots you take, and not have makeups. And then it's also going to make things slow down. You should be, if you can get yourself a little bit nervous in practice, and you can do that by limiting how much ammo you have to spend on a target, like treating it Virginia count, that will help you create some more of those nerves that we get into in a match. And the more we can recreate that and work through that, practice that, then the easier matches are. Then when you get to a classifier, you don't have this big upsurge of adrenaline because it's like, oh no, this counts. Well, they all count. So treat it just like you would any other stage. Treat it like a stage. So that would be like my fourth. So what do we got? I'm on 4. So the fourth tip would be to treat classifiers just like a stage. And if you're practicing these things, if you're confident in your fundamentals, if you're confident that you can perform, that's all they are. They're just standards, right? They're just testing how good you are with your fundamentals. So if you're practicing those, they shouldn't be an issue. So anyways, this is just an example. You can work this, you can do everything you can practice with limited rounds or Virginia count or add more pressure to it. If you move that beyond classifiers and you move that mindset into each stage that you shoot, I guarantee you're going to be more successful, and you're not going to be that much slower. even though it feels slower when you're taking that little tiny bit of extra time to make sure you had a good sight picture, a little tiny bit of extra time to make sure that you go 1 for 1 on that steel, that your sight picture with your dot or your sights are in the middle of that steel to ensure that you hit it. If you span that out over each stage, even over one stage, you're not going to see a big jump in time. In fact, you'll probably see the opposite. It feels slower in our heads when we're hyper focused, all right? But it's typically faster because we get the job done sooner than we would just throwing rounds out there, all right? As soon as I did it, I went straight to the top at locals and even bigger matches, level 2s and such. And it was just a simple change in how I practiced and mindset. So it's the big secret. There's a lot of other things to it. There's a lot of things you can do to get better, but that, I would say, would be the number one thing that you can do to, one, up your classification, up your level, but two, just be better in general with your pistol, with USPSA, with competition, with how you handle pressure with your mind. It's going to be a huge help. So that's probably my biggest tip I can give to anybody that's already familiar with USPSA, but just having trouble. They're plateaued and they need to get to that next level. So enough talking, right? Let's shoot this. All right. So I gave you the intro, the idea, my thought process behind it, and what's helped me. Now I'm time to put it to the test. I just set this up. I gave the intro, and now I'm going to shoot it. So I'm going to do it like I said earlier. I'm going to take the paper targets first, just like a classifier, and where I'm going to shoot it from, the closest paper target's about 9 yards, not quite 10 yards, these close ones on each side. The far paper is 20 yards. The steel up front are about 12 yards, and then the two further steel on the sides, those are about 18 yards-ish. And those are 8-inch plates. Not the smallest, but not the biggest. They're pretty difficult typically. They give me some trouble sometimes. So anyways, cold. I'm going to do a couple dry fire runs, warm up, and then you're going to see me shoot it. Well, that was almost exactly what I wanted, except for I threw a Charlie on the deep one. And if you look, I nicked, so we'll look over here. Alphas. It's alphas over there. Hopefully you can see it. Alphas. This one I just nicked. So close, so close. And the Charlie high. That was my second shot. And the time was 6:73. So as you see, 11 shots, 116, nothing special. 30 split on the paper, 6.9 transition, 44 split on the far target, 61 transition to the last paper, 23 split. The reload was a 146, and then 45, 42, 41, 56 for a total time of 6:73. So not bad, not bad. I just nicked the steel. That was probably the worst part, is just pulling it a little bit early before I was centered on there. So not bad for a cold run. Of course, very frustrating to leave a piece of steel up.
and loading show clear. It's clear. Hammer down. Holster. Range is clear. Time. 3:39. Wait, that was too fast. It won't range.